basically, 3 strikes you're out rules are the concept that if you are caught downloading music 3 times, then you're going to lose your internet connection. And that's really the stick to the carrot of ISP licensing. So that's why we decided to address both topics on the panel. And ISP licensing is the concept that you would apply a collective licensing regime very similar to ASCAP, BMI, and CSAC. How when you hear music in a bar or restaurant, those organizations collect a licensing fee for that music, and then it goes in a black box and gets distributed to artists according to their ownership interest in the works. The concept of ISP licensing is to apply the exact same regime to the internet.
You started by saying, okay, the 3 strikes is a stick to the carrot of the ISP licensing, which conjures up that they need to go together. I think they need to be dealt with separately. I mean, they're not unrelated, but I think there are steps along the way, and you don't necessarily have to get to the end step of the carrot. The other thing is I also want to talk about nomenclature a bit. I mean, it's nice to know that everybody's heard of 3 strikes, and it's probably because we use that lingo that, you know, it sticks in your mind. But of course, 3 strikes, I believe, comes from US criminal law, right, where you had the 3 strikes policy with drug offenses. Is that right?
Yes.
And of course, it conjures up this very draconian, okay, you get caught with drugs twice, the 3rd time, you're going to jail for like 1,000,000 years, right? I know I'm overstating whatever it was, but that's what it is. And so when people use the nomenclature of 3 strikes, it immediately conjures up, oh my God, that is so draconian, that's not fair, we just do something twice and then we go to jail, you know, to internet jail forever. You know, I think what we're talking about here is graduated response, right? It's providing a remedy to copyright infringement. I think most people who download illegally know that they do something that's not quite right, right? And I think they may come up with, you know, civil disobedience, reasons for doing it, but ultimately I think they know it's not right, but they also know that they're really not going to get caught doing it.
Right, so they're doing it because they won't get caught, and not because there isn't any fear that something will happen to them.
That's right, and of course, yes, we can sue for copyright infringement. We have all our old-fashioned remedies, and those haven't gone over very well when they've been attempted in the United States, in Canada, didn't go over well. And they're also not very practical. They're very expensive, it takes a long time to litigate.
Well, you have sort of 2 layers of this. One is the collecting of the money, and the other is the dividing of the money. The ISP doesn't necessarily need to be worried about the dividing of the money, but they are going to be asked to worry about the collecting of the money. So on the collecting of the money, if you put it on everyone's ISP bill, there will be a significant number of people who will resist this because they don't necessarily view what they're doing online as being wrong. So you're going to get pushback there. You're going to get pushback from the ISPs because they don't necessarily want to be involved with the enforcement aspect of it. So that creates a bit of a problem. You would also have to get all copyright owners basically lined up and signed up for this, because if there's any one copyright owner who doesn't sign up, then the ISP leaves themselves open still for liability from what I call the lone gunman, who can come in and still, in this country at least, sue for significant damages. On the other hand, if you don't have a collecting society that allows you to identify individual tracks or individual works of copyright, then how do you divide up the money? In other words, if you're collecting a pot of money for all those different verticals, then how do you divide it up amongst the verticals? And then once you've divided it up amongst the verticals, how do you divide it up amongst the individual rights holders within each vertical? And that becomes kind of a mind-numbing problem.
Right, okay, so that's the question. Dina, what about the artists? How are they going to get paid?
Well, this is the whole, I'm all for new stuff, let's all try to figure it out. I'm all for new and innovative ideas and, trying new things and, to see what works, but the devil is in the details. I mean, certainly in our industry, the American music industry, I mean, we have two copyrights. We have the sound recording copyright, we have the musical composition copyrights, and traditionally they hate each other, okay? The sound recording copyright didn't come into existence here in the US until 1972, and then when they came into existence, it was like a hurricane. Came right in and they started collecting most of the money, which really upset the music publishers and the songwriters, and it's been a big battle since then. Within the two copyrights, we don't get along. The artists don't get along with the record companies, the producers don't get along with the artists. You know, the musicians, the session players, the background vocalists, they fight with the artists and the record companies to get paid, so that's a little bit of a nightmare. Then within the musical composition copyright, they all fight too. The songwriters compete against each other, the music publishers compete against each other. You know, and the other thing too is from the artist's perspective, let's say this worked, and let's pretend, you know, everything's Disney, and we work out the splits and everybody's happy about that. But where does the money go? Now here's the issue. The record companies say, we'll collect it all and pay everybody. And that's a problem because no one trusts the record companies in America from their past history, especially paying people, not turning over manufacturing records, you know, and making everything very complicated, no transparency, so that's not gonna work. So everybody says, well, let's get a third-party escrow agent, like maybe Sound Exchange, that will work. You know, the record companies are not for that. The only way that they claim that they'll support this kind of subscription or all-you-can-eat music service is if they collect the money and they control the revenue stream to pay out everybody. So, you know, from the artist's perspective, this is what I think that we're doing. We're sitting around and we're saying, let's wait. You know, and they're saying we support new ideas. We'll come, we'll give you a license. You have Spotify, we'll come, we'll give a license, we'll check it out, we'll see what's gonna go on, you know. None of my clients are saying no, 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 no. The one thing that scares the shit out of them, my clients, is this notion, this energy up here where they all think that they're going to lose control of their art.
Well, and so the internet transcends territories, so, and law is territorial. What's happening in the Isle of Man?
The whole thing started with us, with a very simple solution to what has turned out to be a very complicated problem. The simple solution for us was to say, right, okay, the ISP, that's the gateway. Everybody who has the internet connection, everybody who downloads goes through an internet service provider, pretty much. So we came along and said, okay, well, why don't we charge everybody a flat rate, a nominal fee, and try to monetize this 95% of music that's being consumed that isn't being monetized. So a very simple solution, and which is one that is scalable. So if you look at sort of every internet connection in the world paying a nominal dollar, a euro, a pound, or whatever it might be per month, you basically negate piracy and you monetize what isn't being monetized. Sounds easy. And then it starts to get really complicated because the ISP then says, okay, what's in it for us? And the rights holders say, okay, what's in it for us? We realize this money's being collected. How's it going to get collected? How's it going to get distributed? So you then say to the fingerprint recognition technology guys, what can you do? That sits on the network and recognizes everything that's being consumed on the network. And then you get a very granular approach to what's being consumed. So therefore, it can be distributed in a very granular way and a more fair way. So that's not bad.